We just saw how to install a Snap application and create a reverse proxy to that service running on port 3000. Snaps are convenient to install and use, but they are very hard to change out a service. For example, if you don't want to use MySQL, but you want to use MariaDB instead, it'd be very hard to do that, but using another service called Docker, we can do it. Docker is a very common service in cloud computing. You can use Docker to run virtualized instances of operating systems or microservices. We will spend most of our time working in Docker. First of all, we want to get used to the Docker commands. So we're going to install a tool called Nextcloud. We can install it as a snap, but we want to install it in Docker so that we can configure it and change it. But first of all, let's just install it the simplest way we can. I'm going to say Docker run in a daemon mode in the background, and we'll do port 2850 80, and the particular container we want to find is Nextcloud. We need this information for the reverse proxy. This says we're going to accept a request on port 2850 and send it internally to port 80. This is our VPS, and this is inside of the container itself. So it's going to try to find it. Nextcloud, it can't find it, so it's going to go to Docker Hub and download it and extract it. While it's downloading, we can go in Docker Hub Nextcloud. So we are downloading this image here. And it was very similar to this command, but we changed this port because we just used different ports inside of our VPS itself. Okay, so we can verify Docker PS that it is running. The image is Nextcloud and the ports. So this is how we can access it. So if we go curl, look at the head and go HTTP localhost in 2850, and it is going to make a request here, which then sends it inside of the container and returns back this information. It is using Apache, not Nginx. If we want to access it, we have to create a reverse proxy, just like we did with our Rocket Chat. Again, I already have the subdomain name configured called cloud.y.jj8i.com. There it is. But if we try to access this, let's just try it to the HTTP. It's going to bring back the default Nginx site because the reverse proxy is not configured yet. So we will do it identically what we did with Rocket Chat. So we want to use nano to create a file, etc nginx sites available, and we'll call this cloud.yjj8i.com. And I'll copy our template text here. Need to change this to cloud.ygg.com, and we need to change this port. So we call it 2850. So save that. We need to create the symbolic link so we can enable it. If you're lazy, you can just copy half of it. And now we can verify that the sites that we have enabled. Okay, and then system control, restart Nginx. When we look at it through localhost, we know that we are hitting the Apache service. Now if we change this to cloud, it hit ours on the reverse proxy on the outside, which is why it said it was this, and then it came to the port on the inside where we got all this additional information. So now if we refresh this, it's going to bring up the installation for our Nextcloud instance. We could configure it so we can access it, but we're not really going to do anything with it. We will configure it later in a proper setup. But you can still run through the installation. We will not install HTTPS or SSL on it right now because it will break Nextcloud. It will not work in a mixed environment. On the outside, we are accessing it HTTPS. The service on the inside still uses HTTP. Both of these have to be the same. This concludes this section, which demonstrates how to run a service using Docker, and then again, how to connect it using a reverse proxy.